Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Breaking Uneven podcast. We love to talk shop, uncover the beauty of failures, and play a few games. Today, we have with us Marie Martens, the co founder of Tally. Marie began her journey with a master's in communication management and then went on to Decide, an events and brand experiences company, after which she held multiple roles in the B2B publishing space. And then she was a marketing manager at In the Pocket, a digital products company. And finally, the entrepreneurial bug took over her with Hotspot and then Tally. So I hope we haven't missed anything super noteworthy from your journey so far.
Not at all, not at all. Thank you for the introduction and thanks for having me.
Okay, awesome. So now we're gonna play a quick little game.
We're
Okay.
gonna play the Twitter Pet Challenge. Twitter is known for its 280 character limit on every tweet, which sometimes makes it a little difficult to convey your thoughts. It takes about 20 seconds to speak 280 characters. So we want to transfer this challenge to you to explain to us Tally in 20 seconds. But we won't make it easy. We want you to also use one emoji and one hashtag in your tweet. Any question?
No, that seems clear.
Perfect. So let me know when you're ready and I will start the time stopwatch.
Okay, let's try it.
Okay, perfect. Three, two, one, go.
So Tally is the simplest way to create forms for free without any coding skills needed. So I would be hashtag no code and emoji dollar sign or something like that.
Wow, you are on 10, 11 seconds. That's amazing. Probably one of the fastest ones we've had so far.
I suspected this would be relatively easy for you because you've got that one liner in your Tally description in
Right.
your LinkedIn profile. So I was like, okay, as long as it's that one
We like to keep things
short and
short.
simple.
Yeah. Indeed, indeed.
So okay, let's go back to your time at Ghent University. In 2010, you wrote your thesis on the impact of brand incongruence on co-branding. And in today's world, co-branding, collaborations, partnerships, they're everywhere. So what was the main
Right.
insight from your thesis, and does it stand the test of time today?
Wow, good question. I mean, this has been, when was this? It's probably more than 15 years ago. So you digged really deep. I think so. I mean, at the time, the research that we did was really simple, right? Like we just basically took like two brands and then merged them in an image and just saw if people liked them more or which ones would fit and which ones didn't. So I would say it's pretty far off like partnerships and collabs that you see these days. And I think the main finding was that if you add brands with similar values or similar design, that they collab in a better way than if you don't. So there weren't really like surprising results there. Um, I don't really. It's a good question. I haven't really thought about it anymore, especially haven't applied it to what we're doing today. But I think it is quite relevant, especially for a tool like Tally. We have a lot of integrations, especially when you're active in like no code space. Tools are kind of built to connect with each other, and of course there's tools like Notion that we really love to use as well. And there's a big overlap in like Tally users and Notion users also because we have a similar interface. So there's definitely value in it for us, to collaborate with these big brands so that they can help promote Tally as well. And of course, because we also carry some of the same values, I think it kind of works for users as well. So it's definitely something that even though I hadn't thought about it in over 10 years, it's definitely something that applies to what we're doing today for
Yeah,
sure.
no, 100%. In fact, when I was going through your profile, the reason why that stood out to me was because so I use Tally with a Zapier integration for the emails to come through to me from the form. And
Right.
in fact, I have used Tally to basically build out an entire so like my company's entire payment approval process, leave approval process, and all of those things, I have built it out
Okay.
through Tally and Zapier. So, it just got me thinking that, there's a lot of partnerships and integrations that are so relevant to Tally. And it's just interesting that that was your thesis way back when. Um,
Yeah, it actually is. I mean, it's not the reason why we like it's a pure coincidence, but I've never really made the link actually. But it's definitely more relevant than ever. So that's a good point.
so okay, so then after Ghent, you had about 10 years of job experience, and with Hotspot, right? That was your first time entrepreneurial experience.
Yeah.
So what did 10 years of job experience do for you as a founder with Hotspot?
Good question. Yeah, I started more in like the event business. So I studied like communication science, and then but that was university. That was pretty theoretic. Like theoretically, like it's not like you really learn a lot of things that you can apply in business life, which is something I might have done differently, like knowing everything that I know now. So I started in events in Brussels, in Belgium, like a small agency, but I also quickly realized that that was like not really what I wanted to do. Like it's cool because we worked with big brands, but it was mainly focused on like the organizational part, not really about communication and branding, but really like organizing these big events for big brands, in mostly in Belgium, some abroad as well. But it taught me because I did my internship there. I also did it to learn French because I speak Dutch, and in Brussels they speak French, and in Belgium it's also quite important that you know both languages because there's like two official languages, and it's a very small but very complicated country. So that was one of the main reasons. But then after a couple of months, I thought, I want to go more into really like communication and branding and less just like organizing the events. And then I switched to another role in like one of the bigger publishing companies in Belgium. They basically, it's a big media company. They have newspapers, magazines, online news sites, and so on. And there I was active in. Like it was called marketing and research department, and we would basically help like the salespeople that would sell ads on all the media channels with like make presentations and make sure that they have all the arguments to like convince advertisers to work with them. So that was pretty interesting because you learn a lot about the whole like media landscape. But it was also very big, very corporate. So I like worked my way up a little bit in there, but then realized that maybe I want to have more of like the startup vibe and have a bit more impact. While at the big company, you just report to your boss, who reports to the next boss, and it's all very formal. And I thought it was time for something new, like after 6 years, and then ended up in like the digital product company, which I think um, is the closest because it was also not really a startup. We were like with 40, they're now with 200 people. It's also an agency, so they basically build mobile applications and platforms for clients. So it's not really a product company. Um, but I guess I learned quite a lot about just like product, and their product management, shipping features, how to do that fast, more that type of stuff. But I was responsible for marketing, so it was B2B marketing. But learned more about the tech landscape, I would say, and yeah, also about more agile ways of learning. Um, Also working in a company that's growing fast, presents different challenges than working in those big corporates. So that was really interesting, and I think that was kind of like the runway or like the last step for me to then finally jump to doing my own thing. But I guess the biggest trigger was Philip, who is my partner in life and also co-founder, and he had had his own startups before, had worked at other startups. So he was really used to, just launching stuff and building things. He's a full stack engineer as well. I don't have any technical skills. So I kind of needed, I guess, someone with those skills and like the last push to actually take the jump. And it was also combined with us like really wanting to travel and work, and we really wanted to do like the whole digital nomad thing. So we thought, Hotspot was like the perfect idea that we once had on a trip to Mexico. And we had built the MVP, we had some customers, and then I decided to quit my job and just to go on this journey together, travel, work, and see, if we can make this into a business. And then, but that's a whole different story. But then, COVID hit, and then after 1 week, we kind of had to fly back and do something else. But I would say that's kind of how it started. And I don't know if I mean, I definitely learned things during those 10 years, right? About marketing, about managing people, about working in a company in general, processes, tools, all those things. But still, like the startup life was very new to me, especially having a SaaS as well was something completely new. So there were a lot of unknowns and still are.
Two things that I really want to ask you, but the whole digital nomad thing is like a dream, and like I want to know more about that experience. But before that,
Yeah.
I feel like you've had 10 years of job experience, but within that also you've worked at multiple places. So I just want to know, like, do you have any decision making process or something like that when you want to switch from one to the other? Like, how does that go about? Were there any similarities between like the multiple switches?
I think one was time, like just you get tired after a job after a while, which is just like the human thing, I guess. Like after a while, if you have a bit of ambition or you're curious, probably after 3 years, you kind of have mastered all the skills in your job and it becomes a bit less challenging. So then either, you get a promotion and you get a new job, or you go and you try something else. So I guess I kind of always had that, like after a couple of years, had like felt like the need to do something else. Otherwise, you kind of get bored, and you're still young. I was in my 20s, and I also just wanted to make the most out of my professional career. So I guess that was one. Also, the people you work with, because in the end, those are the people you spend most of the time with. So having fun colleagues around was definitely also important for me. But I guess just having the freedom to have some ownership, to be able to make some decisions, and to be able to start new things, because that's something I've always liked also in my previous jobs. I think like if I can get those chances, then that was for me always a good reason to switch. Also, of course, financially, if you can improve and if you can get a better salary, because in the end, you're working to earn some money. So that definitely also played a role. But yeah, I would say the most important thing was just to do a job that I really love, and also to be surrounded by people that I can learn from, right, and that you can look up to, because I think that's kind of the most valuable if you work in bigger companies, to basically be surrounded by smart and fun people, and that kind of lifts you up as well. And that's how I experienced it in my first working years. Yeah.
100% I agree. Like, in terms of the people that you work with, play an important part on your day to day and how
Yeah,
long you would stay in a particular role. But yeah, the second interesting
definitely.
thing that for me was, you mentioned that you worked with your partner. So how is that? Like, everyone mentions, like, mixing business and pleasure is always tricky. I think even with friends and things like that, it gets a little like it put a strain
Yeah.
on a friendship. So how is that for a relationship?
Yeah. So I think with friends might be even harder. But I'll come back to that. Yeah, how was it for us? In the beginning was a big question mark. We had never worked before. worked together before. The only thing we knew is that we had like compatible skills and the same dreams, so that seemed for us like enough. We were never really afraid of working together, but I think that was just a bit of a being naive, because we had never experienced it. So we kind of just jumped into this adventure. um, I guess for us it was also a bit of a lifestyle change. Like, we rented out our apartment, we were going to travel, we were going to see what happened. So it was like this completely new chapter in our lives that started. And I guess that's more easy to do with your partner, right? Because if one person has a job or is an employee, it's kind of difficult, to start traveling the world and chasing your dreams. So that kind of made it easier that we were in it together. Um, what I hugely underestimated is work-life balance. Of course, I mean, does not exist. There is none. There are no barriers. There is no. We work from home still. There's no closing the office and going home and talking about different things. And I think in the first year or the first 2 years, it was a bit easier because, well, first Hotspot kind of failed after a couple of months because of COVID. So the first big struggle was like, oh shit, we need to do something else. We need to pivot. And then I guess I was also getting stressed about money, like we were like half a year in, not earning money with both of us. What are we going to do if the next thing also fails? So you kind of have that stress. And that's where Philip would be like a bit more calm and more experienced and be like, okay, we just need to show up every day and keep on doing what we're doing. And in the end, we'll get there. So that definitely helped. But of course, the moment you get stressed, there's tension, you have a lot of discussions, and you kind of really need to try to separate those from like your relationship, which is just really difficult, to be honest. Like, I don't have like a magic trick of how to do that. I think what helps for us over the years, because now it's like third, fourth year that we're working together, is the fact that we have like separate responsibilities, and each, like, we need to trust each other. So he's in charge of the product, he designs it, he builds it, right? He asks for my opinion, and of course, we decide what we're going to build next together. But he has end responsibility on that side. Everything else that is, I would say, marketing, PR, but also admin, finance, all those things are like in my bucket. And he also trusts me with those. And so I think that was important to like establish that, and just to each have your own thing. And then just to communicate well, and basically the moment you get disturbed, just say it as well. And also what we do is like, because we spend a lot of time together during the day, right? We also make sure that like in the evenings, we separately meet with friends. We have like our own hobbies, so everyone has like their own me time, and that definitely helps as well. Plus, in the process, we also had our first baby, our daughter, and she also definitely helps with like just switching off, because you kind of have to take care of the baby, pick her up in daycare. So it kind of gives us more structure, which I think, I mean, it's definitely not a competitive advantage to to have kids, I think, in the startup world, but just she brings some kind of structure that we didn't have before. You would just work day and night and see what happens. While now you're like a bit more bound to certain hours, and you need to make more. Yeah, you just need more structure in your life, and I kind of think that also helps us a bit work-wise, and to be able to not talk about Tally once in a while, because of course she doesn't care about it at all. So yeah, I don't know if that's an answer to your question. I think it's not easy, and I think it's something you constantly need to work on. And of course we have fights over a lot of things, but just because you the business is growing, you get stressed, you it's very difficult to just switch it off. But the team is growing a bit now. We're having some colleagues, and we're also trying to, to make sure that if we're not around, that everything still keeps running, and that so we can like take a holiday and take some time off once in a while, which also helps. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think, the first part of what you said is so like true for me as well because I work with my family. Um, and
Okay.
so the same thing that we're at home together, we're in the office together. So we need to find ways to like have our me time. We need to find ways to resolve conflicts without
Yeah.
affecting the relationship. And we do the exact same thing. We've got particular like responsibilities. But in
Right.
coming to Tally, actually, firstly, congratulations on the baby. Um, super
Thank you.
exciting times. But yeah, so coming to Tally, why does Tally exist in a world of, there's Typeform, there's Google Forms, Microsoft Forms, etc. So why does Tally exist? And tell us more about your particular freemium model, because I know you all have worked in that very specifically.
So when our first startup, Hotspot, we were like 6 months in, and the whole travel industry was down because it was a product in travel. Because of COVID, we decided like, okay, we need to pivot because we don't know how long this pandemic will take, and we would have like brainstorms about products that we've used or other ideas or like problems we've had, and one that came up was forms, just because we had actually launched Hotspot with a Google form just to see if there would be interest from hotels, because hotels were the paying side of the product then. And we had used a Google form, and I remember, it just being it's just not a product I enjoy using. You cannot really customize it. You can do a lot with it, and it's free. So we ended up using it, but we thought like, hi, no, this looks bad. We checked Typeform at the time, but that was pretty expensive because we wanted to have 100 or 200 hotels or like signups. But the moment you like pass the 10 submissions a month, you have to start paying like significantly more. And at the time, we also didn't have budget for it. So we ended up going for the free version. Now, also in my job as like marketing manager, I had used like HubSpot forms. I had used several form tools and also CRMs. So we were more thinking in this space, like as well, because Philip had 10 years ago once had like this weekend project, which was called Tally. And it was a very simple tool to build polls. So you could just create a poll. You didn't have to sign up. And it was number one on Product Hunt, but it was like this weekend project. So he never like pursued it, or he never did anything with it. So all of that together, in the brainstorm one, like, I don't know, I remember we would always do it on Fridays on our terrace, and then we thought, yeah, wouldn't there be like, isn't there a place for like another form builder slash CRM? Because in the beginning we were really thinking towards a whole CRM space, which we didn't end up doing. And then at the same time, we were also starting to use Notion to run our startup. And we talked about them a lot because we really loved how they have like this community first approach, and how it was also a product that was just cool to use. And people, but also ourselves, we just love spending time in it. So they kind of made like note taking fun again. And then we thought, how can we apply the same thing to forms? They also have a very generous free tier. Can we make it free, and can we make it just fun, and offer users like a nice user experience? And that's kind of how Tally, the new Tally, then was born. Our first mock-ups were like very focused on like giving insights and CRM, and like how do you track the persons. Like we thought that the forms were just gonna be like a detail, and it was gonna be more about the data that you gather. That was the first idea. But then we were like, okay, we know we're just the two of us. Let's just start by just building the forms, and then we'll see. And now we're 3 4 years later, and I think we can spend 10 more years on just building a form builder. We have more than 1,000 feature requests lined up. But that's kind of how it was born. So it was a bit out of a combination out of problems we've had before, and then also a bit of a frustration with like existing business models where you hit the paywall after 10 submissions, you don't have access to a lot of features. So we kind of wanted to like switch that up and basically allow you to collect unlimited number of submissions, create an unlimited amount of forms. So all of that is for free, but just added with like one Tally Pro
Yeah.
plan that we need to pay the bills, and that's mainly focused at businesses and teams, people that want to work together, that want to invite team members to the workspace, that want to remove our Tally branding, because that is because you mentioned the freemium model. That's basically the biggest part of how Tally grows, is because we have like this made with Tally
Yeah.
badge on the free forms. So everyone that uses it for free kind of promotes us as well, because they share a form, and of course, a form is like a viral product by nature. You create it to share it with other people, and the respondents get to see the Made with Tally badge. They're like, "Oh, this form looks good. Let me check out the product," and that's actually how Tally grows, and that's also something we really needed because we're small. We decided to bootstrap from the beginning, so we needed a way to scale the product and the marketing approach without having the big marketing budgets. And this like product-led growth and having the badge on the forms kind of allowed us to
That's
do
actually
that.
how I found Tally, by the way. I filled out a form on Tally. I
Probably.
saw Made with Tally, and I was like, "Oh, this is beautiful." And then I looked it up, and I saw that you can build the forms for free, and the pro
Yeah,
features themselves are like really specific things that people might require, but for the
right.
average use case, it's free. And I was just like, "That's
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant," because to be honest, that's what the freemium model is supposed to be, is to give you like a large taste of what the application can do for
yeah,
free and then charge you if you want to kind of boost your usage beyond a certain point.
right.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
it's meant to let you
totally
discover,
agree.
yeah, discover the entire application
Yeah,
before you decide to pay for it. And that's what I enjoyed the most about it, is bringing that back, the original freemium model. Um,
yeah.
but
Yeah, that's what we hear from most our users actually, and that's how most people discover us as well. And that's like the frustration we also have with a lot of tools. Like you either have a free trial, but you then have like 1 week, and then the week is over, and then did you actually test it, or are you actually ready to upgrade? So there's like less pressure because we just, most of the
yeah,
features are free anyway, and people can try it out. Of course, it also gives you a lot of free users, which also means a lot of support, which is something else we can maybe discuss later on. So it's not all pros, I would say,
yeah.
to go for this business model, but it's definitely the easiest one, I would say, to grow if you're a small team.
No, 100%. And I think that, you can find ways to monetize further in the future. But in terms of like,
Yeah,
as I said, there is a lot of existing competition out there. And for you to be able to grow it works beautifully. And in fact, the best thing that Tally does today is it gets people to invest their time in it because you're not restricted. Like when I
yeah,
see a 7-day free trial on an app, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to try and learn this because if I don't like it at the end of 7 days, I don't want to pay for it, and then I won't end up using it. So with Tally, the reason I
no,
went into the big rabbit hole is because I'm like, it's free. So if I want to use it, I actually can. So it gets people to invest their time. Um, but going back to one of the things that you said, so you've bootstrapped Tally from day one. Currently you've reached a $60,000 monthly recurring revenue, and it's just 4 people on the team. So how do you manage that? I mean, I know that there's you and Philip, but it's not easy, right? Because I also know that you do customer care yourself and stuff like that. So how difficult is it to manage that all of that with just 4 people?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's becoming more difficult. I think in the beginning our growth was a bit slower. You know, we had less support, and I think the what the freemium model made happen is just that we had a lot of free users, which is what we wanted. You know, because they promote the product, but they are usually also the ones with the most questions and you know, need for support. And from the start, we had the Slack channel where we really like we found it really important to talk to the users and to learn. So from the start, we had a Slack channel where the earliest users would join and they would give us feedback. So that was like a great way for us to get feedback, decide on what we're going to build next. But it turned into a quite big channel where everyone could just join whenever they had a question. And in the beginning, you know, you have the early adopters that really help you out, that give you feedback. But then it kind of turned into this live chat, I would say, where people would just come in like, hey, this doesn't work. Hey, can you fix this for me? I need help with this. And at one point, because I think now they're like, yeah, we have now around 120,000 users, and only 2,500 are paying users. So, you know, we have more than 100,000 free users on the platform. In the Slack group, it's like now something like 3,000 people, but it just became impossible to manage. So from the start, we decided to invest a lot of time in our help center, right, to make it self-serve, to make sure that people could find documentation, but that's it's never enough, right? Like not everyone reads, not everyone finds the answer they're looking for. Also, because it's a tool that is used with a lot of other integrations, there's a lot of technical support. People really push the boundaries of what you can do with the product. So we still ended up having a lot of support questions, and I think by the end of year two, it just it became so much that we also hadn't started hiring yet because we felt like maybe it was still a bit too soon. We didn't have that much revenue yet as well. So the only thing we were doing was doing support. And Philip, you know, also got like frustrated because he didn't have time to actually build new tools, new features, or work on the product, improve it. It was just like bug fixing and support. So then we decided, like, okay, this is not scalable anymore. You know, we were doing all these things that don't scale to get started, but then after a couple of years, you know, you're like, you get in trouble. And then we hired Richard, who was our first, actually, the first member, first hire of Tally. And he helped us part time actually with customer support. So that was like the first time where we thought, okay, you know, we need to grow the team because we cannot manage it by ourselves anymore. Richard is not there anymore. He started his own business, but now we have Jonathan who replaced them in a very similar setup, but also part time for now. And we just started spending a lot more time on scaling support. So basically, until actually a couple of weeks ago, everyone could just send us an email or join on Slack. And we kind of had to stop that because we just, you know, we just didn't have time to manage it. So now we made a tally form actually with a lot of logic where you can say, okay, I need help, I have a bug report, or I want to give feedback. And you know, you get, you know the drill, you know, you go through certain questions and then in the end you can contact us, which helps us a lot because it's a bit more of a streamlined, you know, way to contact us. And then we also actually stop the access to the Slack channel, so we still have that big group of like first users in there, but new people cannot join anymore because it gave us a lot of stress that we cannot answer immediately. Also, it's something that is 24/7, like during the night, you know, people would start asking questions. So that's kind of slowing down now. Just, you know, investing time in some other tools like shared inboxes and making sure that the customer support part is a bit more scalable. So that was one thing that yeah, we definitely had to do. And that's like, actually the biggest struggle that we've had. And then we hired Ahmed. He's based in Egypt, and he's an engineer that helps Philip to ship new features. So he joined around 6 months ago, and since he joined, like we had to introduce new processes, of course, because everything was just in Philip's head. So that also takes time. So it really took us some time to like implement the new tools, processes, hire people. And then since the beginning of this year, we managed to like pick up the pace again, work on the product, launch new features, spend a bit more time on marketing, and so on. But it's a roller coaster. Like then we're fine again for a couple of months, and then there's a new struggle. But I think that was our main one. Is like how do we go from just the two of us to a bit more of a scalable operation? And once you have the first people in, they also help you. They can give you feedback. You have some processes in place, which then makes it easier to hire the next people. But because we're bootstrapped and yeah, we grow slower, of course, we don't have like the big funds to just hire a whole team, but that's also how we want to do it. So things move a bit slower, which can be frustrating because, you always want to move fast. There's new competitors coming as well with funding that move a lot faster. So yeah, it's constant balance between like how do we see it, how do we want to live our lives, how do we want to grow the product, how small do we want to keep the team. But definitely I would say, yeah, making the customer support a bit more scalable and hiring were the two most important decisions for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, given that like anyone around the world can use it, regardless of your time zone, there will always be questions.
Yeah.
And I think like given that you work with your partner, like it's also kind of it can be difficult to keep that separate. Like if you do get a question at 10 p.m., you might just be like, okay, should I answer that? Should I not? Which is a difficult
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah, totally. Or one person's working and the other one is not, but you see
Yeah.
it, right? Because you're in the same house. So there is definitely that pressure, and we are definitely replying to people, at 10 p.m. in the evening, and it just kind of became a habit. And I think for ourselves now, we've reached the stage where we need to learn to not do that anymore. But it's difficult because these are the things that helped us grow and get to this point, right? So you don't want to like completely switch it up, but you just need to make sure that, that we don't burn out, that we're still around in a couple of years, because if we don't do that, then the users don't have a product to use anymore. So that's also not good.
Yeah.
But I guess it took some time for us to realize that. Yeah.
Yeah, that dichotomy would be difficult, right? Like to just balance in terms of, or like, because again, like you said, that you have a group of 3,000 users that were your initial users, and those are the ones that give the most amount of feedback, support, and they are also supporting your business in an early day. So you want to give back to a certain extent as well, because you're like, okay, yeah, because of the feedback that you're giving us, we are able to grow and build. Um,
Definitely. Yeah.
but
Definitely. Yeah.
what was your reasoning behind bootstrapping your business? I feel like in this day and age, like most companies try and raise funding, or like even if they don't have funding, they at least try to. So I think you went on a complete different
Yeah.
track of just knowing that you want to bootstrap. So what was the reasoning behind that?
So one big thing was, so before Hotspot, Philip had a different startup, which was called Delta. It's a crypto portfolio application, something completely different. But anyway, that got acquired, and then he left the company, which also meant that we had some financial runway, and we had some savings to try something new. So I think that was actually the most important reason. Reason two is that he has had less positive experiences with investors in his previous companies, which also made us think like, why would we not try it ourselves? And I think there's there's a couple of, I mean, it might sound like an easier decision than it is. You do need to make sure that you have the skills in house, right? Like what happens a lot if you're a non-technical founder and you want to launch something, you just need to hire a developer, and this costs money. And where does the money? If you don't have the money, you need to invest. You need to raise money. So that was like one checkbox that we had. Like we had the builder in house, so that worked. We had the savings, so we knew that we had enough to like not work for a year, I would say, and not get in trouble. So that definitely helped. That made the decision a lot easier for us to take. Besides that, I think we are in our early 30s. We're starting to build a family. We also have some other goals in life, which I think if we would work with investors, I think it would cause a lot of stress as well for us. Also, a lot of pressure on the business because we had this very clear idea that we wanted to make it free. And I think, you could potentially make a lot more money with Tally. You can charge a lot more. You can approach it completely differently, which is something that in the beginning we also thought like investors would probably see things differently and make different decisions. And well, if we bootstrap, we can just make the decisions in the best interest of our users. So that all of that together, and just a bit the dream to have like a sustainable lifestyle business for our family, and also the freedom to do whatever we want when we want it. That kind of made us decide like, okay, let's just try it, and let's see. We did doubt because after our product hunt launch we got a lot of outreach from investors, and we actually still do. And sometimes they're big names, and you're like, yeah, is it maybe not ambitious enough? Should we raise money? But it's just, it's like it's more like a lifestyle decision, I would say, that we took. Like, let's take it. It's not necessarily our dream to build the biggest team or to have the biggest company. Like for us now, like you said, the company is making 60K MRR. I mean, it's still growing fast, but the first dream for us was like, if we can pay our bills with this, that would be great. Yeah, we've passed that point now, so we need to see what's next. But I think we just got more sure of our decision, as the product and the revenue started growing, that we just wanted to try this by ourselves and see what happens. But we did doubt, and we sometimes still doubt. But I think by now we're pretty sure that this is the way to go for us. And yeah, we have actually, there's another baby on the way, which I think just having like the pressure of like external investors. I don't have experience with it, but I think for us it would be too much to handle. So we're kind of happy that we didn't go the VC route. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot going on for both of you then, like with the company with already, and you've been on the
Yeah.
way.
There's so much going on, and there's a lot of decisions that are also like made in the best interest of the family, and that just doesn't always match with building a business or having other investors involved. So I guess for us it kind of made sense to do it without it. Of course, it needs to work, right? And you need to make money, because it took a while before we could pay our first salaries, and that it's just important. Like, you need to have the savings to like cross those first couple of years, and it makes total sense if you don't have them. And then I think it's better to raise money, so you can at least try to build a business, because not everyone has like already sold a business before, and has the savings. So yeah, it was a bit of a combination of a lot of things.
It's so interesting, and I love how at the core of it, it was like what was right for you and your family, and like it was
Yeah,
more of a personal decision versus a business decision. And I think it's very
yeah,
important in this day and age. I think that a lot of people can get carried away with just that, oh, we've raised a certain X amount of money, and like the valuation of our company
yeah,
is this. And I think like to take a step back and see what's right for you and for your family, it's refreshing to hear, and I think it was a great decision.
yeah. Yeah, I think also for us, we in the beginning, because maybe now we have a bit of a better idea, but we also were asking ourselves, what would we do with the money? Like, we also need to know what to invest it in. And people are like, ah, you just hire a team of 10 people. But actually, we can ship a new feature almost every week with just two developers. So do you really need 10 people? Like the very big companies are also not shipping that fast. So maybe that's not even necessary. Do you spend it maybe on ads? Like it's all things that we also just didn't know. So we thought if we would raise now, we're not even sure what to spend it on. So I feel like if you can do it by yourself a bit longer, you get a better idea as well. And you would make the better decisions than just hiring a big team. And if no one knows what to do yet, then you're also just stuck and you just burn through a lot of money and it can go very, very fast, right? It also, I think, takes a lot of time to raise money. You need to talk to investors, do the pitches. So you basically you're just full time invested with that, which is also something that we didn't really want because we just enjoy actually working on the product and talking to the users. So it indeed comes down to what do we like doing, and we're not like the biggest salespeople. So I think this kind of worked best for us.
So I think you're at a point today, where if you were to raise money today, you would firstly do it at a much better valuation, a lot less equity, um, and it would
Yeah.
just be like so much more worth it than if you had done it at the beginning. And the, even
Yeah.
then, the most important part of that is you still have the choice, right? If you want, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And I mean, it's just so amazing that you've built yourselves up to that position. Um, that's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's a good position to be in from that point of view, definitely. I think now it's like easier said than in the first
I'm sure,
years,
yeah.
because sometimes you're like, oh, why should we just raise money, pay ourselves salary, not have all the financial headaches. But I guess if you can make it through those first years by yourself, then I would definitely advise to do that.
No, definitely. I think I'll play the long run game versus the short term. So that
Yeah,
that definitely
yeah.
is paying off now, but will pay off so much more in the future as well. So that's great. Um, but yeah, moving on to our next challenge. It's called Two Lies and One Truth. We want to understand a little bit more about your journey. So, whether it's a challenge or your biggest achievements, the idea is that you give us three statements, from which one explains the actual big moment at Tally, whereas the other two are false statements. And then Anuj and I have to guess the correct one.
Okay, so let's say like the most difficult point or in managing and growing Tally. So I'll give three of those. One would be when our first baby was born, right? Second one was when we had zero users and we had to find our first users and first paying customers. And then third one, I would say, was when we had I think we had like 50K users or something, and our growth was speeding up like a lot, and we had to find out a way to manage that. What would be the right answer?
I have an inkling that it might be the third one where like the growth went exponential. But Anuj, what do you think? Oh, okay.
Yeah, totally. Totally. But I already mentioned it a bit before. But I would say that was 10 times harder than getting it started and finding the first users and even having a baby. I think managing the growth and like scaling the business, probably because it was also new to us, was definitely the most challenging thing up till now.
So my answer was gonna be actually two of them. I was gonna say that in terms of doing the work, that was probably the third one was the toughest. But in terms of what you find difficult as a human with emotions was probably number one, right? Like when you've got a baby, then there's like a whole bunch of other emotions that come into play, especially with you and your partner. And so that's a
Yeah,
very different kind of
yeah.
difficult as compared to keeping up with growth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I think the advantage we had then is that we actually had just launched Tally, so it was still really small. So we didn't have a lot of users, we didn't have a lot of support, we didn't have like the pressure, the expectations. So it was kind of easier for us to like take it a bit slower and just postpone a couple of things and work while like raising the baby. Like it kind of worked, but just because like the scale was a lot smaller compared to
I
today.
mean, yeah, you and Philip have three kids, right? One, the baby, one on the
So
way, and
no,
then Tally.
yeah, and then indeed it always felt like another baby for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Let's go on to our next challenge, which is called red flags. The point of this game is we're going to give you three hypothetical situations. In each situation, there are two things that are going really well, and then one thing that's going not so well, which is the red flag. And so we would, of course, adapted these for you. So you have to pick which of these three you'd rather be in. So Tally is reaching close to 100,000 monthly active pro users. You've got integrations with over 500 other platforms, but your freemium model starts to create problems. That's situation one. Situation two is that Tally has been hitting $200,000 MRR. You've just raised a very good round of funding, but your clients start to drop off and you can't figure out why. And situation three is that Tally's team has grown to 50 people. Typeform has offered to acquire you at a very impressive valuation, but Philip chooses to leave the company.
Oh, so I would not like situation two because we just don't want to raise, right? So I guess that one that's clear. We would not want to be in that
I think
situation.
the part of that is like when after a conversation when you're coming to the red flag, even I was thinking that maybe she's not going to consider that to be a green flag. But yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it is something we've thought about, like the problems that can occur, right? And then go explain the investors what's happening. Like now we just need to explain to ourselves. I think situation three is like depending on because I think situation one we've kind of we don't have integrations with 500 platforms, but that kind of feels like where we were in now. Starting to have some problems with our freemium model as well. Situation three depends on why Philip chooses to leave the company. Because I mean, if one day there is a company that offers us an impressive, amount, yeah, of course, at one point that would be the goal. Like we cannot do this for another 30 years or something. But then you have the whole new challenge of who stays on and who doesn't. So I don't know. Maybe I would go for situation three. Philip might not like it, but then depending on why he leaves, right? But if it means that we can sell Tally at a really good amount, I don't think Typeform would be our preferred buyer, as we try to do things very
Yep.
differently than them. But like replace Typeform by someone else, and then I guess I'd go for three. But it's a difficult one. This one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, situation one was crafted, basis your situation today, just kind of exaggerated a bit, and
Yeah,
then situation two and three
yeah,
were
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
absolutely crazy things. But yeah, as we spoke through in the first half of our
Yeah,
conversation, even I was thinking that our red flags this time might not be particularly on point.
but I mean they're good. They're good to think about, though. You kind of hit the hit it like pretty well with situation one. But I think at one point, of course, we do want to like what's next for Tally. That is at one point maybe get acquired. I mean that's not at all in the cards right now, but if that could happen one day, and if it's at a life changing amount, I would say, then yeah, then of course that's the end goal. Yeah.
100%. I think like sometimes we try to keep it like we have like some assumptions on like what founders overall would consider as green flags and try and tailor some of them like those. But I think throughout
Yeah.
our conversation, we've seen how non-traditional of a founder that you are and how your thinking is a little more unconventional than the rest of them. So it's interesting how that also came out in like the entire red flags situation. So no, I mean, you.
Yeah, might be different indeed. I don't know. Yeah, what other? I don't know if Philip would have said the same, would have given the same answer, but I think so. Yeah,
Maybe you can share these red flags with him and like send us
I will
pictures.
actually. I did take, but I will share it with him in the episode as
I'll send
well.
you a screenshot of it on email so that you can.
Ah, cool. Thanks. Okay, perfect. I'll let you know what he
Yes,
chooses.
we would really want to know. Maybe don't tell him that you chose the third one, and then let.
No, I won't. He'll hear it when it's live.
But yeah, moving on to our final segment, which is the rapid fire. So we'll ask you questions, and you need to give us rapid answers. So, how
Okay.
many days of leave have you taken in the last year?
Shit, yeah, rapid answer. I haven't. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, sometimes I don't work in the weekends, but it rarely happens that we don't do anything tally related. Um, Maybe 10. I don't know.
Okay.
Like hard to
Yeah.
say.
Your proudest moment with daddy.
I think it was reaching like 10K MRR for us. That was a huge one because it also meant that we could pay ourselves like good salaries, and we would like start to make a bit more than we would do in our jobs as employees before, and that was like a big dream. So I think that was like a very big one for us.
What was your biggest sacrifice to make daddy possible?
Yeah, I guess just a lot of time that could have been spent with friends or hobbies, or that went into work. And also, for example, a lot of our friends were starting to move and buy a house and start a family, and all of those things kind of came a bit later with us because we were very invested in the business. So there were definitely a lot of like financial sacrifices, and yeah, also family wise. So yeah, I think there's a lot needs to be sacrificed, if you want to start a business for sure.
100%. Your favorite daddy feature?
I think that must be like the customization options. Like, I love seeing how people sometimes create, like, I mean, we see bad things, but we also see beautiful things. Like, some people really design like the best looking form, but you still recognize it's Tally, but they've like added their own branding on top. It's also the most visual one, so I think I like that the most. Yeah.
What's one feature you haven't been able to figure out that has been requested by people?
Oh, there's tons. Where should I start? Like, password protected forms are very highly requested, but it requires, like, it's a whole different beast, but it's sometimes difficult to explain to users why. It's because all the answers need to be encrypted, which is the case for us, but they also cannot be visible for you as a form creator because you would just have a list of passwords, which is not the most secure way to handle that. So that's one that we just haven't started on. There's others like opening up our APIs so people can connect tools and also get data out of it. And we've been saying that we were going to do it like for the past 2 years, and it's just such a big project that it hasn't happened yet. But there's a lot, basically, our whole feature request lists. I mean, there's a lot that are difficult to tackle or that seem easy, but that are a bit more complicated. If I may believe Philip, more complicated than they sound. Yeah.
What was one time you felt like you let daddy down?
Um, I think like half a year ago, we kind of, what I explained before is like we didn't really manage to help our users in the best way. We didn't manage to solve bugs in a timely manner. We were just kind of stuck. I think we were both a bit burned out, probably as well, and we just didn't really see like how we could improve the situation. We got so stuck into the day to day, and those were a couple of months where we did started feeling bad and a bit guilty even because you just feel like you're not doing a good job. A lot of people would ask things we could not reply. There would be like bigger bugs that didn't get solved, and we luckily managed to like get out of that situation. But I think that was like not the best time in Tally history.
Would you ever retire?
I think so. I can see myself on a beach somewhere, uh, not working. I think so. I don't think we will easily like not have any projects, but I definitely. I mean, it's definitely our goal to retire at some point. Yeah.
Fair enough. Oh, beat sounds great at this point. Books or podcasts?
Definitely podcasts, because it's something that I can do, while biking or being on the way. I haven't read, because usually the last question is, which book would you recommend? And I haven't read any books in the past 2 years even, because I just don't really find the time. While a podcast is something you can do, while you're like doing the dishes or you're like in the car. So definitely would prefer that.
Luckily, we do not ask what your favorite book.
No, so don't ask.
Yeah, good. I'm bad. But are you a morning person or a night owl?
I think more of a morning person. Yeah, Philip is more of a night owl, and I'm definitely a morning
And your
person.
favorite social media platform?
So I think it would be Instagram, but then not work related because for Tali we're mostly active on Twitter. But like personal life, I just like to I like photography, like to look at other people's pictures. So I think would be Instagram.
There's one more question, surprise question.
Yeah.
What podcast would you recommend to our viewers?
Um, I think if you're like in the indie hacker bootstrapper space, like this indie life, it's made by James McKinven. You might have heard of him. He's also a bootstrapped founder. They like basically just discuss, how life is as bootstrapped founder, which I find very very interesting. And then I also, especially in the last years, started listening to the Indie Hackers podcast because there's a lot of people in similar situations like ours that are featured in there. So I think those two definitely.
But yeah, that concludes our rapid fire segment, bringing us almost to the end of our conversation. What we do is we ask every guest to ask our next guest a question. So we'll first ask you what our previous guest asked, and then you would have a chance to ask our next guest a question. So
Okay.
your question is,
What's been the best and the most challenging thing you faced with your team?
I think the most challenging one we've probably already talked about, which was the whole scaling customer support. I think the best part, well, I think the first one was our product hunt launch because it was just such a crazy day and we got so much like positive feedback on in within 24 hours and we doubled our user base in one day. And for us, it was like the first time that we really got true validation of what we're working on. So I think that might have still actually be the best part or the best thing that has happened. Yeah.
So I have one more request. It's a crazy request, but I think I noticed Philip walk in case you want to play red flags with him right
Yeah.
now. I don't know if he's camera
Do
ready.
you, Philip? Do you wanna come for just a second to answer a question? If your camera ready, that is. I think he is. I think he is. It'll be quick.
Okay.
Come. So I'll explain. Yeah, this is Philip.
Hi.
Can you see?
Hello. Not really camera ready, but let's go.
So basically, yeah, you don't hear.
No.
Wait. So we're presented with three situations, right? They all have a red flag. And you kind of need to choose the one that you wait. Is it the one you want to be in, or the one you least want to be
The
in?
one you
The
want
one
to
you,
be in.
yeah.
The one you want to be in. Like if you would need to choose from those three.
Okay.
So I already did it, but then we said maybe we're not sure what you.
All right. And those are the situations. And
So the
Yeah.
first situation is that DALI is reaching close to 100,000 monthly active pro users. You
all
integrations
right, let's go.
over 500 other platforms, but your freemium model starts to create problems. Situation two is that DALI's been hitting $200,000 MRR. You've just raised a very good round of funding, but your clients start to drop off and you can't figure out why. And the last situation is that DALI's team has grown to 50 people. Typeform has offered to acquire you at a very impressive valuation. Your co-founder, Marie, chooses to leave the company.
Wow.
So with me,
Yeah, it was
the last one was that you choose to.
Yeah, I get it, I get it. And the idea is which one would I pick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
If you have
and
to
why?
choose.
Yeah. I think the numbers are not correct, but I think actually we are probably in situation number one right now. I would say, it's a good reflection, I think, of where we are at, except for the numbers. And then the other ones, okay, yeah. I would pick the situation we're at right now, to be honest, as well, which is one. I don't know what you picked.
I picked three, depending on
Oh, shit.
depending on saying like maybe not Typeform but another company, and then depending on why you leave, of course.
Yeah.
But
It sounds. I mean, the whole being acquired, of course, it can be a very positive thing, but the other stuff didn't look that great. It sounded to me more like there was some sort of big dispute between the co-founders, and he kind of had to sell because
yeah,
that was the only way to go, or like the only way to go with some sort of positive outcome. But maybe I
we need
misunderstood
more
it.
background.
Maybe I
So,
misunderstood
in fact,
it.
in the
We need
past,
more green flags.
we've had people, when because we've used this before as a red flag, right? Like your co-founder chooses to leave the company, and I think one of our previous guests took it to mean that, oh, if my co-founder is leaving the company, then it's probably for like something better, and we've come to like an understanding, which is why they're leaving the company. So I think
Yeah.
we were thinking
Yeah,
from that perspective.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah,
I mean,
now we know.
yeah. I still think that I would pick number one because even though there is like, of course, the negative thing that there is problems that come with it. I think because we sort of are in that situation, we have like, I think ways to deal with it, or like some sort of plans to deal with it, that I feel like the most comfortable, I guess, with that outcome. I think number two was raising money, which is also not what we want to do. And yeah, customers are churning out, or you're failing to deliver on their promises, on the promises we made and what they expect, which sounds difficult as well.
Yeah.
And when it comes to three, I think we have a lot more to give to Tali and to the users. So not something that I feel ready for.
Yeah, no, 100%. As we were telling Marie as well, situation one is crafted on your current situation, just slightly exaggerated.
Okay.
But thank you so much, Philip. Sorry for springing this on you last minute, but
Yeah, no
it's
worries,
just so
no
nice to
worries.
see how you and Marie both reacted to red flags. It was just awesome.
And some of it was so similar, like both of y'all said no for
Yeah.
like situation two on the investors thing. And both of y'all also recognize that
Yeah.
situation one was very much what like you're currently at and dealing with. So yeah, it's interesting to also just see that. And yeah, we've spoken with Marie for the past hour, and it's incredible how y'all have been working together. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
You're
Yeah, no worries.
welcome. You're welcome. It was really nice chatting to you too.
All right. Thank you so much,
Should I give
Marie
you
and Philip,
the?
for.
Yeah, I'm gonna exit the scene. Bye.
Thank you so much, Marie, for coming on the podcast. It was an absolute, pleasure having you share your story with us.
You're welcome.